Hey guys, Manic Mercurian here. In this video, I'm going to be going through the compatibility of Taurus with all 12 signs. So let's just get started. So first of all, Taurus with Aries. These are going to be two very different energies. They don't really have a lot in common, although I do see an attraction here. So the attraction would be because Aries is masculine, Aries is dominant, Aries likes to initiate, and then Taurus is more receptive. So Taurus could be receptive to Aries to some extent. Also, Aries is ruled by Mars, Taurus is ruled by Venus, so there's kind of like an opposites attract between, more masculine, more dominant energy versus more receptive energy with Taurus. So I do see an attraction there. Also, both are very socially intelligent, so they could definitely enjoy like the courtship process between one another. Once they get closer to each other, though, I don't see this really working. They don't have a lot in common, like I said. Aries is going to be very extroverted and want to be very active, doing things all the time, where Taurus is more kind of laid back and maybe more of a homebody at times. So they're not going to have a lot of the same interests. Aries is more impulsive and spontaneous, and Taurus takes its time with things and likes to be more prudent, I would say. And so it would be hard for them to sort of accept each other's way of life. So you'd have to have like two energies that are very open to each other's differences. They'd have to be very open-minded, and there would have to be some kind of compromise here just because the energies are so different. So overall, I would say nay, this doesn't work. There is an attraction there, but long term there's just not enough in common. Next we have Taurus with with its own sign. In general, yeah, this does work. Anytime you're mixing a sign with itself, obviously they're very similar energies, so it's a very easy connection because there's just so much in common. Taurus will understand another Taurus energy, and so it's very easy. I think one of the potential issues would be that Taurus, like I said, is a more receptive energy. It's more introverted, and so when Taurus is around another Taurus, it might take some time to build up that relationship between the two energies just because neither one will really initiate very quickly. So it would be kind of a gradual process. What else? But Taurus, I think, as long as both Taurus energies are, it would be a very slow process, like I said, and not very active or exciting. And as long as both Taurus energies are okay with that, then it would be all right. But this would be kind of a friendship, or the main thing connecting them is just how easy it is to relate and how easy it is to speak the same language, but there's no like dynamism or passion or excitement. So although it would be kind of mundane, maybe a little bit slow, it would be a very easy connection. So overall, yeah, this definitely not the most exciting combination, but I think it would work. Next is Taurus and Gemini. So, like with Taurus and Aries, we're combining Taurus with the sign immediately next to itself. So that's called a semi-sextile. Taurus makes a semi-sextile aspect with Gemini. And whenever you have two signs that are next to each other or semi-sextiling, there's a sort of off and on. So kind of like I said with Aries and Taurus, they could be attracted to each other, but also not have a lot in common. So there's kind of like a hit and miss, off and on dynamic. So Taurus has a similar thing with Gemini where they can be sort of attracted to each other. Again, both are kind of socially intelligent. Both can be socially gifted, or they can have interesting or pleasant conversations, since Taurus has the Venus influence and then Gemini has the Mercury influence. So they definitely could both enjoy that. They're both a little bit intellectual at times. So I could see like really good conversation or banter between these two signs. But again, there's just not really a lot in common. Taurus is so fixed and so consistent, and Gemini is so scattered and, inconsistent. There's so much eclectic energy, frenetic energy with Gemini. Gemini is so nervous and scattered. So Gemini could be kind of stressful to Taurus, and Taurus could be kind of boring for Gemini. There's just so much scattered stuff going on with Gemini, and so much consistency and focus with Taurus. So that's the main thing where I think they could kind of get on each other's nerves to that extent. So overall, it's not the worst combination. There could definitely be an attraction there, or mostly with those pleasant like social interactions. But I see these being more like acquaintances. I think if the Taurus energy was very close to the Gemini energy, there would definitely be some friction there, and they would have a hard time always understanding each other or being accepting of each other, because again, they're just two very different energies. So overall, I would say no, but of all the signs that don't mix well together, this is, as long as there's like acquaintances, like I said, I think this would work to some extent, just not on a deeper level. Next, we have Taurus and Cancer, and this might potentially be the best combination for Taurus. They have a lot in common. So both have a lunar influence, since the moon is in domicile in Cancer and exalted in Taurus. So both have a lot of characteristics of the moon. So both are very nurturing, more slow, more sensual, more sensitive, more introverted. They're both yin signs, with Taurus being earth and Cancer being water. So they're both more introverted or reflective, or both are observant. So really they have a lot in common. But even their differences can actually help this relationship. So this is a sextile aspect because they're two signs away from one another. And whenever you have a sextile, you'll have the same polarity, or, in this case, they're both yin signs or feminine signs or introverted signs. There's many different ways of saying that. But anytime you have a sextile, they will always be a different element. They'll always be opposite elements. So Taurus is earth and Cancer is water. And so although they do have a lot in common, they would understand each other very well. They're also different enough to keep the dynamic interesting and to benefit one another. So it's a very complementary relationship. For instance, here, Taurus is very grounded and very structured, and Cancer enjoys that. Cancer isn't always very structured or very grounded, and so Cancer would benefit from the groundedness of Taurus. And likewise, the way Cancer benefits Taurus is that Cancer is very nurturing and very soft, and I think more humorous. Cancer could kind of lighten up the Taurus a little bit, or be emotionally comforting in some way for the Taurus, be nurturing in some way. So just overall, this is a really, really great combination. And yeah, so definitely a yes for me on that one. Next is Taurus with Leo. So these are three signs away now, so this is a square aspect. Anytime you have two squaring signs, they will always have the same mode but a different element. So both are fixed. They're both in the middle of seasons, with Taurus being the middle of spring and Leo being the middle of summer. So they're both, fixed, stubborn, consistent. They like just consistency. They, whatever they're doing, they like to continue doing that. They're very stable. But the ways in which they are stable are very different. Taurus is introverted, Leo's extroverted. Taurus is more it thinks before it acts. It's more cautious or more prudent, and Leo is more spontaneous or impulsive. So I think there can be an attraction here. There could be a little bit of opposites attract. They are, one's dominant and one's more receptive, and so that can kind of work. Leo's fire and Taurus is earth, though, so a lot of times when you're mixing a fire sign and an earth sign, it can be very passionate at first, but then pretty soon the fire sign kind of burns up the earth sign. So, it'll be passionate or energetic, but pretty soon the Taurus in this case would feel kind of drained. Also, the Leo could get kind of bored because Leo is just so much more active than Taurus. Taurus is more just chill or low key. So Taurus could see Leo as being reckless or out of control, and Leo could see Taurus as being kind of boring or, not enough action to keep Leo interested. Also, Leo really likes drama. Leo can be a very dramatic sign, and Taurus really doesn't care for drama. Taurus wants, just stability and peace. So there could be definitely a clashing here. Since both are fixed signs, they both definitely know who they are. They're very confident in who they are. And so I think they can actually be open to one another just because they're so fixed in who they are. They respect other people who are like that, in that way. So even though they're very different, they can understand each other, that, they're each kind of embracing their own individuality, and they can respect one another for that, even though they're very different and might disagree on a lot of things. So there could be some things going in favor of this combination, but overall, they are very different. They have different interests, different ways of life. So overall, I would say no. This is a yang sign, so generally it'll be hard to work with a yin sign. So overall, probably not. Next is Taurus with Virgo. So Virgo is 4 signs away from Taurus. Now we have a trine aspect. Anytime you have a trine, the signs will always have the same element, and because element dictates a lot of what a sign is all about, they will have a lot in common. So In this case, Taurus and Virgo are both earth, so they're both very grounded. They're both, cautious or prudent. They think before they act. They're grounded. They are planners or organizers. They like to be kind of responsible and have everything kind of in order. They both sort of react to things slowly. They take a long time to assimilate. What else? They're both kind of cool or calm, a little bit on the introverted side. So this would be very easy. I mean, they just have so much in common that they can definitely relate to one another. And they're still enough different that I think there could be some something dynamic to keep this relationship going. Taurus is ruled by Venus, which is a benefic, and Virgo is ruled by Mercury, which is not a benefic or a malefic. It's just kind of neutral. So I think Taurus is more upbeat, more social, and so it can sort of help Virgo in that aspect. And then Virgo is a little bit more disciplined or more serious, and so Virgo could benefit Taurus in that way. But overall, they have a lot in common. So in general, yeah, I'd say this works very well either as friends or, depending on what placement we're talking about, they could definitely be close friends, or even romantically to some extent it could work, just depending on what we're talking about. But overall, yeah, I'd say this definitely works very well. Next, we're 5 signs away from Taurus now with Libra. So 5 signs away is a quincunx. Quincunx is sort of problematic and awkward. It's difficult because now we're combining 2 signs which have very, very little in common. You can't have much less in common than you do between 2 quincunx signs. Taurus is the middle of spring, Libra is the beginning of fall. Taurus is earth, Libra is air. Taurus is fixed, Libra is cardinal. Taurus is yin, Libra is yang. They have almost nothing in common. They're just so different. So there will be a lack of understanding there. Taurus could see Libra as being fickle, since Libra is kind of wishy-washy, and Libra's more kind of open-minded and doesn't really like to commit. And Taurus is very committed and very straightforward, and so there could be a lack of understanding between each other there, and it might be hard to respect one another just because of that lack of understanding. However, what they do have going for this combination, even though they're quincunx, they have the same planetary ruler. So both Taurus and Libra are ruled by Venus. So they would connect over Venus things. Both care very much about aesthetics. Both are very sensual. They're very socially intelligent, or they both have a lot of desires, whether they be socially or sensually. So both are ruled by Venus. So they both want to have like very pleasant experiences. They're known to be sort of indulgent in those aspects. They care very much about like beauty and aesthetics, and they can be a little bit vain at times, so they can sort of connect over those things. They do have a lot of the same desires, but Taurus is more the physical expression of Venus, and Libra is more the non-physical or more social expression. So Taurus is more interested in like physical pleasures, like just like food, or even like sleeping to some extent, having really comfortable clothes. Libra is more caring about the aesthetics or the social dynamics, maybe more, both kind of are vain, or they care about attractive people in a way, whatever their view on that is. But just in general, although they do have the Venus side, which is all about love and beauty and aesthetics and stuff like that, and pleasure, like I said, Taurus is more the physical side of that, and Libra is the more social, or Libra is more intellectual or wanting to have interesting conversations, more focused on social dynamics, or Taurus is more interested in physical pleasures. So overall, I'd say no, this doesn't really work very well. Next, we are straight across the zodiac now with Scorpio, and this is always kind of interesting when you're combining 2 signs that are directly across from one another. They're opposite, so they'll have a lot in common, but also a lot different. They're obviously at complete opposite times of the year, with Taurus being the middle of spring and Scorpio being the middle of fall. So if you think about those times of the year, the middle of spring is all about like regeneration and birth and new things. Everything is kind of flourishing and blossoming. And in the middle of fall, it's the exact opposite. Everything is sort of dying out and getting more gray or more dead, and more preparing for eventually winter. So that kind of reflects the attitudes of both of these. Taurus is just very grounded. It sort of just accepts abundance very readily, and it's very calm. It just kind of has this belief that everything will just sort of work out and everything's fine. So it's a very casually it's a very casual mindset that Taurus has. Scorpio is kind of the opposite. It's in a survival mode. It's always, quantifying things and assessing dangers, or assessing whether it can trust people or not. So, excuse me. So they're very different in that aspect. I think especially for a relationship, it could be hard with Taurus having a more relaxed approach and Scorpio being more edgy, that they could have conflict in those areas. However, they could end up balancing each other out, though. So Scorpio can feel out of control very easily, especially with other people. But Taurus is so grounded and so consistent and, so earthy, I guess, that it's probably the best sign just to make Scorpio feel at peace and feel less uneasy, because Taurus is very predictable. It's very straightforward. It's very easy to understand, and that can be very, very comforting for Scorpio. And also, Scorpio can kind of help Taurus because Scorpio, again, we're combining water with air, with earth, so Scorpio can be sort of nurturing for Taurus. But Scorpio can also be kind of edgy and a little bit wild or rebellious, and Taurus is more kind of vanilla, or just, kind of a normie, I guess. So Scorpio can kind of activate Taurus and kind of, activate Taurus's wild side a little bit more. They're also both very sensual, and so they'll enjoy like sensual pleasures together. Both really have a need for consistency and commitment. So overall, this is a really interesting combination. They do have a lot different, but they also have a lot in common. And I think overall, this match actually works pretty well. So that would be a yes from me for sure. Next is Taurus and Sagittarius. So this is, I probably want to say this is the worst combination for Taurus, just generally speaking. Of course, it always depends on what placement we're talking about, or, exactly what situation we're talking about, or what expression of these signs. But in general, we're combining quincunx signs again, sort of like with Libra, but unlike with Libra, both Taurus and Sagittarius have different planetary rulers, and so Taurus and Sagittarius have even less in common than Libra. Taurus is, this fixed, very consistent sign. It likes to sort of do what it's already been doing. It likes familiarity. And Sagittarius is always, it's more reckless. It's more out in the world. They're trying new things. So they'll not have a lot in common. Taurus could be more of a homebody, and Sagittarius is more active and, more doing things. So, so Taurus could see Sagittarius as being not responsible, or out of control, or reckless, or just too overbearing, I guess. And then likewise, Sagittarius could see Taurus as being kind of too boring, or probably just too boring, I guess, really, or too simple. Like Sagittarius likes to have a lot of different experiences and have, a whole adventure, and Taurus is just more low-key. It likes to relax. So yeah, overall, there's just so little in common here. Like I always say, when you're combining quincunx signs, you can't have much less in common, especially when there's no planetary ruler that's shared between them. So yeah, that's going to be a big no for me. I guess I'm trying to think of plus sides here. They are both ruled by benefics, and so both kind of have a carefree attitude to life. Both kind of enjoy the pleasures of life, but they do so in such different ways. Taurus is so low-key, Sagittarius is so dramatic, and Taurus doesn't care for drama. So yeah, overall, this really doesn't work very well. Now, though, we're on Capricorn, so combining signs that are 4 signs away. So again, with that trine aspect, they're sharing the same element. So they're going to be both earth. Both Taurus and Capricorn are earthy, so they're very grounded, very more responsible, or more consistent, more focused. Even more so than Virgo. Virgo's mutable, so it's kind of more scattered. But Capricorn and Taurus are both they're very consistent. They like to do the same thing in a long-term situation. They're both very committed. They really have a desire for consistency and reliability and responsibility. So I think of all the signs, Capricorn probably has the most in common with Taurus than any other sign, probably even more so than Virgo. So this would work really well, just because they these signs will easily understand each other. It's just easy to have a connection because they relate to one another so much, and it's easy to have that respect because of that relatability. Whenever you're combining two very similar signs, some of the downsides could be there's not enough different, so like there's nothing dynamic there, so it's not exciting or passionate. Also, it's not a complementary relationship because neither one is really bringing something to the table that the other one doesn't already have, and so they're not really growing a whole lot with each other. But I think with Taurus and Capricorn in particular, what they so much desire consistency and reliability and straightforwardness, and so I don't think they would mind that with one another. I think they would both really enjoy the consistency and just the groundedness that they feel with one another and how much in common that they have. So overall, this is a really big yes. I think this would work really well. Now with Aquarius, we're 3 signs away again. So so both are fixed, but both have different elements, with Taurus being earth and Aquarius being air. So both are kind of stubborn and consistent, but Aquarius can be it'll be consistent for a while and then suddenly change, and that sudden change could be very stressful or confusing for Taurus. Taurus is kind of just very, very steady, probably the most steady sign of all of them. And although Aquarius is steady, it can also be sometimes unpredictable. It's the sign of earthquakes, where like something will be very peaceful and calm and it'll be the same way for a long time and then just suddenly change in a very dramatic way. So I think that could be very shocking for Taurus, and Taurus doesn't always like surprises like that, so that could be an area of contention. Also, we're mixing earth with air, so Aquarius is going to be more kind of scattered and social and just very spontaneous and just trying new things, just unpredictable, all up in the air. And Taurus is going to want to be more consistent and be more simple or straightforward. It's just Aquarius is just so unpredictable. I think Taurus would not really care for that. So overall, this doesn't really work a whole lot. I think both can sort of have an intellectual side, I guess. Both can respect each other just because they are very individualistic signs. So they're both fixed. They both know very much who they are. And so they can respect one another because, even though they're very different, they can at least respect that they're each sort of embracing their own individuality. So I think there can be a mutual respect there, but it would be difficult for them to be very close to one another just because their approaches to everything are so different. So overall, I'd say no, this doesn't really work super well. And lastly, we're down to 2 signs away from Taurus with Pisces. And so this is a sextile aspect, and when you have a sextile, it's very complementary and very harmonious because they'll both be the same polarity. So both yin, both reflective or introverted, both more internal, but then there'll be different elements. So Taurus is earth, Pisces is water, and this works really well because similar with Cancer, Pisces is water, so Pisces is very nurturing to Taurus. Pisces can be emotionally recharging for Taurus, since Pisces is so sensitive, and Taurus would enjoy that. And then Taurus also can provide a lot of structure for Pisces. Pisces can be very, very ungrounded and feel all over the place, and so Pisces would enjoy the structure that Taurus provides. So in general, this works really well. They have enough in common to understand each other, but enough different to benefit each other and to keep things interesting. I think the only hardships would just be in some of the differences, because we're mixing fixed earth with mutable water. Like of all the earth signs, Taurus is the most fixed, the most consistent, and of all the water signs, Pisces is probably the least consistent. And earth is already a pretty consistent element, and water is already pretty inconsistent, and it's constantly changing. So some of the differences could just be centered around that. If Pisces wants to change a lot, Taurus might not always be able to keep up with that. And if Taurus is wanting straightforwardness and commitment and reliability, Taurus might have a hard time getting that from Pisces to some extent. So those could be some of the challenges, but I think overall it does work a lot, because like I said, they have enough different to keep it interesting, but enough in common to still have that mutual respect and understanding. So even though there could be some challenges, overall I'd say this works pretty well. And that's the last sign. That concludes my take on the Taurus compatibility with all 12 signs. As always, if you have any suggestions at all, please let me know in the comments. And at any rate, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.